Hi all, this is Deepak. Hope you all are doing well. Today in this video we are going to cover a very interesting topic, which is like how to create full stack application using React.js as a front end, Spring Boot as a backend, and H2 as a database. In this video we are going to create full stack application along with CRUD operations. On the front end side we are going to create our front end application using React.js. In that we are going to use React library, and using this library we are going to use functions and hooks available in that, and we are going to implement some main features like searching, sorting, and pagination using this Reactable library. Next thing, on the backend side we are going to create our backend application using Spring Boot, and we are going to implement CRUD operations using REST API. We are going to connect with H2 database. It's an in-memory database. So in-memory in the sense that it will retain the data state till the time our application is running, and it's in that sense it's a in-memory database. Now in this video we are going to build a complete student system with full of functionalities. Like we are going to cover CRUD functionalities, we are going to implement full stack application, as well as we are going to implement the searching, sorting, pagination. With that, it is a full of features. So I will request you to watch this video from start to end, so that you will not miss any functionality in between. At high level we are going to cover these points. First we'll see the introduction, in which I will showcase you the user interface and running functionality, so that you can visualize how our application will look like once we build and run into the browser. Next point, we are going to cover architecture part. In this I will showcase you the student system architecture, in which we have subsystems involved like front end application, back end application, and the database. So all these things you will come to know in our architecture part. Next point, we are going to create our backend application using Spring Boot, and our backend application name will be student-service. In this, like, we are going to create all the CRUD operations using REST API. Finally, we are going to create our front-end application using React.js, and our front-end application name will be student-web. And here, this student web will interact with our backend application, student service, and this student service application will further connect with database in order to achieve all the CRUD operations. So all these points we are going to cover in this video. So at low level, on the backend side we are going to create a student service. Here these are the points which we are going to cover in sequence on the backend side. First we will create our Spring Boot application. Next we will configure the H2 database in Spring Boot application. Next we are going to implement the CRUD functionality to store or fetch data from the H2 database. And finally we are going to test our CRUD APIs using Postman and verify the data in Postman as well as in H2 database. So all these points we are going to cover on the backend side using Spring Boot. And finally we are going to implement our front-end application. So here we are going to create our front-end application using React.js. So these are the points which we are going to complete in a sequence. So first we will create a React.js front-end application. Next we will create a table using Reactable library. As I already told you that we are going to use React functions, Reactable functions and hooks in order to create a tables and achieve the functionalities like searching, sorting, pagination kind of. Next point, we are going to integrate our React.js front-end application with Spring Boot backend application, and in that we are going to implement these APIs and do some functionality. Like first we will implement the get API. Next we will implement the search functionality, sorting, and pagination by using the functions and hooks available in Reactable library. Next we are going to implement the post API, update API as well, and we are also going to handle some error messaging, error handling for some particular scenarios. And finally we are going to implement the delete API. At last we are going to test our application through UI browser and verify the result and responses in the database, as well as we will check on the browser side if all the data which are shown in the database, whether it is showing or rendering as expected on the browser side or not. So all these things and functionality we are going to implement from scratch. So let us start with our first point. So this is the introduction wherein like I will visualize our user interface and running functionality. So let me run our backend application first. Here I am going to show you how our application will look like once we build and run it through browser. Okay. So here is the header part, and here is the search panel in which we have search input box, and this is the add button. And down below this we can show this we can see the table panel. Here by entering the text inside this search filter, accordingly the table data will get filtered out. Now once we click on add button, we can add this pop-up is getting used for addition as well as for edition purpose. Now here let's say we can add some entry, major subject, let's say maths, and here we can add one email, and we can click on add student. We can see the entry is added into the database, into the table. We can add, and as soon as we add one entry, so here the pagination becomes active, and here we can see the first, previous, and this is the page index of page count, and this is the next page and last page. We can add few more entries to see the sorting and pagination working. Let's say it's a Mac, and we can say physics as a subject, email as a mac@gmail.com. Next we can add John, major subject like let's say maths, and here we can add email ID for John. Fine. Now the default page size for our application means by default the page size is 10, but we have set it to 3 so that we can see the pagination for lesser number of data. Now let us add one more record so that this next and last button will get active, because till this time we have only one page. Once we add one more record, so it will show one more second page, and the next and last button will get active with that. Let's say here we can add politics, and here we can add mail for Kevin. So you can see next and last button is active because we have 4 records, and per page we are showing 3 records. You can see this is the second page. Once we are on the last page, the next and last button will be disabled, and whenever we click on previous button, it will take us to the previous page, and whenever we click on last button, it will take us to the last button, and whenever we click on first button, it will take us to the first button. So this is about the pagination part, and we have seen the add functionality as well. So this is about filter. So let's say we can search for student ID, for name, and let's say for subject, yes, fine, it is working, and for email ID as well. So basically this search filter is applicable to all the column data and all the table data. Now next thing, we can edit anything. Let's say if we want to edit this record, instead of Kevin, let's say we want to add Sam, and we can add math subject, and here we can add sam@gmail.com, and we can see it is updated successfully. Similar way, if you want to delete any record, we can simply click on delete button, and the record will get deleted from the table as well as from the browser. So apart from this, we are going to implement the sorting functionality. You can see here it is getting sorted in descending and ascending order, and you can see this arrow as well, and this is for all the columns. This is working for all the columns. Fine. So in short, like we are going to cover all the functionalities like searching, sorting, pagination, and we are also going to cover the CRUD operations. And basically, to create this full stack application, we are going to use the technology stack like React.js as a front end, Spring Boot as a backend, and H2 database. Fine. Now Before we start with our coding, let me show you our architecture part. Yes, this is our architecture. In this, like we are going on front end side, we are going to create our student web application using React.js. And in this, as I told you, we are going to implement all the main functionalities like searching, pagination, sorting, and the main thing we are going to use React table to implement to populate the table and achieve all these functionalities. And we are going to use functions and hooks available in React table library. We are going to use HTTP protocol, and on the backend side, we are going to create our backend application with name student service by using Spring Boot. And herein we are going to implement the CRUD operations by using the REST API. Now with ORM we are going to connect with H2 database. It's an in-memory database, as I told you. So it will not retain the state of the data. It will only keep the data till the time our application is running. In that sense, it is in-memory database. So this is about our overall architecture of this student system, which we are going to build from scratch. Now let us start with our coding without any further ado. So now we are going to create our backend application first, and these are the points which we are going to cover. First we will create a Spring Boot application. So let us close this and let me open a new workspace. Fine. Here to create our Spring Boot application, we are going to use this option, create new Spring Boot starter project. Here we can give our application name. It's a student -service. It's a build type as a Maven, packaging as a jar, our Java version 17, and here we can add our student com.student as a package group, and this artifact we can keep as is like student-service, and here we can mention it's an student service application. Here we can mention package name as a com.student. Once we can cross check it once and click on next. Here we need to add the dependency. First is a Spring Web, next is a JPA, Spring Data JPA. Next we need to add the H2 dependency, and finally we can add Lombac. So this is the order dependency we are going to use in order to build this backend application. Now here inside dependencies we can see if all the dependencies there or not. So this is the Spring Data JPA with which we can create entity object and repository object, and through which we can connect with the database. This is the Spring Starter Web, so with which we can make use of annotations like race mapping and get mapping, post mapping, delete mapping, and there are many other annotations we can make use of using this Spring Web module. With H2 database, this will allow us to connect with H2 database, and we need to configure the H2 database related properties in our properties file. This is the Lombac dependency with which we can remove our boilerplate code, and we can use it for getter setters and some other annotations as well, like builder and data. Fine. So this is about all the dependency and its usage. Now let me run our application, build our application first by using Maven install. We can see it's a build success. Now let us run this by using run as Spring Boot app. we can see our application has started successfully on default port, which is 8080. Now it is fine. Now let us start our actual coding part in this. Now we can first configure our database part. Now in our properties file, first of all we can change our server port. Let's say we can make it 8085. Next thing, we can add database related properties like spring data source dot url, and here we can mention it's jdbc h2 mem, and here we can give our actual database name. Let's say it's a student master. We can add spring dot data source dot username, and here we can mention our username as, let's say, dev, and similar way we can add our password at here, and we can mention password 123 and dev@1235. We can end string dot jpa dot showSQL as a true, so that we can view the executed queries in console. Next we can add spring dot jpa dot database platform, and herein we can add our dialect part, and for our database it's a h2 dialect. Next thing, we can add spring dot h2 console enabled as a true. With this we can hit the data h2 database url through browser and see our database and table data. It's an with this it will allow to open the interface through browser. Next thing, we need to add spring dot data source dot, we can say, driver class name, and here we can mention the driver class name as a org.h2.driver. We can save it, and we are done with our database configuration part. Now next thing we can do, like we can create all the required packages first. Let's say here we will create entity package. Next we can create a repository package. Next we can create service package, and finally we can create controller package. So we are done with our packages. Now let us add the respective component within this. First we will add student entity class. We will create, add all the necessary annotations like @data, and here we can add builder. That's it. Here we can add all the properties for the student. Let's say first is student ID, next is a name, and we can add two more properties, one for major and other for email. You can save it. Now here we can add ID annotation as well it here, and we can add generated value, and here we can add strategy, and here we can mention as an generation type dot at. With this, like, it will keep on incrementing our ID by 1, or it will keep on creating our ID automatically. Fine. So we are done with our entity part. Now let us create a repository. interface, and we can name it like student repository, and we can annotate it using repository, and here we can extend, let's say, CRUD repository. Here we can mention it's our entity class and the data type of our primary key. We can import all the things. Fine, we're done with our repository part. Now let us create the interface over for our service part. We can name our service as a student service. Inside this we can add all the methods which are required. This is for get all students. Next, like, we can call get student and pass here student ID. Similar way we can add one method for add student, and here it's a student ID, and here we can add for one for update, and here we can update this object, and here it is for delete student, and it will return the string because a repository delete is returning void type, and this is the actual object which we are going to delete. Fine, so this all methods we are going to implement in service part. So let us see what all these are. First, it will return all the students. Next, like, it will return only a particular student on basis of what student ID is faster. This will add the input student to the database. This will update the input student to the database, and this will delete the input student from the database and return some string post successful deletion. Fine, now we need to create our service implementer class. We can name it like student service impl. Here we can add service annotation, and here we can implement our student service. Fine, now we need to provide implementation for all the methods which are there in the interface student service. We can add these methods, unimplemented methods. Now here, first of all, we can acquire and inject our repository, which is student repository. Now let us call methods on the student repository. For getting all students, we can call find all. Here we need to cast to the list. Fine, similar way for getting single student object by ID, we can call this method, and this is returning the optional, so hence we need to call get on this so that it will return a particular object, not an optional object. Here again, like we are going to return, like let's say this is the repository and we can call save method, and we are going to save it into the database. We can repeat for update as well. And to hit here, like first we are going to, okay, so we are going to call the delete method. And here post successful delete, it is returning void. So what we are going to do here, we can prepare one message like return student is deleted successfully for student ID, and we can add student dot get student ID. So with this we are done with our service implementer class. Now let us, here we have get student, so instead of get student we can name it like get student by ID. Fine, and same way we can update in our implementer class like this one. It makes sense. Okay, fine. Now let us create our controller part. So here we can name our controller as an student controller. We can add race controller. Here we are going to auto-wire our student service object. We are going to inject this into controller, and we are going to call all the APIs now. Let's say it's a get mapping. Here we are going to add our endpoint as a students. Here it is going to return list of student, and this method name is like get students, no parameter at here. And here we are going to call method on our service, which is like get students, which will return all the students. We can add import for list. Fine. Now here we can see it is returning list of students. So instead of returning list of students, we can simply return a response entity, which looks good because it with the response entity we can store object as well as we can return the status code as well, and we have other options as well with the response entity. So it is better to use a response entity. Here we can wrap our returning object into response entity, and we can add the imports. Fine. With this we are done with our first API. Let us add the another one, and here based on the student ID we are going to return the individual student object for that student, and here we are going to pass path variable, and let's say it's an student ID. and here we are going to pass student ID, and here we are going to call this get student by ID method, and we are going to pass the input student ID so that it will return a particular student for this ID. We can save it. So this is about second get API. Now let us add for post mapping so that we can add student into the database. Now here we can change this method as an add student, and we do not require the path variable, rather we need request body at here, and for request body we are going to pass student as an input, and the same student we are going to pass it here, and we are going to call add student method it here, and we can add the necessary annotations input. Fine, so we are done with our post mapping method. Now let us add update to update student, and we are going to use patch mapping it here, and here for patching we need to pass student ID as well. Here we can change this method name as an update student, and we need to pass the request body as well as the student ID. So the modified student object as well as the student ID against which this object will updated into the database. This is the input database modified which will get saved into the database through using this update student method. We can add it. Fine. Now finally we are going to implement for delete mapping, with which we can delete any student we want. And for delete mapping we are going to return string type, because in service we are going to return string for delete, and we can say delete student. Here we don't need the request body, only the student ID is enough. Now here what we can do, first of all we need to get some student object from our database. We can use this method so that it will retrieve the particular object for this ID from the database, and we can check, we can mention some delete message as a null it here, and here we can check like if std object is not equal to null, in that case go for deletion. And here we can pass this std object, and it will return some string on post successful delete method. So we can store that string into this delete message, and finally this delete message we are going to pass into the response entity, and that's it, we can save it. So this is about delete mapping. With this we have implemented all the CRUD operations. Now next point, like we can see it here. So by now we have implemented these 3 steps. Now we can test our APIs using Postman. Here the port we are going to use as a 8085. Now we can use our port number 8085, and this is the student data endpoint, and we are going to use the get HTTP method. Can send it. Here it is not showing anything. Now because we have not updated, we need to rebuild our application. It is still showing 8080. So let us close this first, and we can rebuild it using maven install. Same way we can run it using Spring Boot app. Now we can see it is running on the expected port 8085, and it is started successfully. Now let us hit this. Yes, it is showing the empty array. Now let us check into the database. For checking the database, we can use our local host and 8085 as our port, and we can see h2 console, and we can hit. Now here is our student master database, and we can check what username and password we need to use, and this is the username and password. Same we can use for it here. We can see we are connected with the database successfully. Now we can check it here. Can run this query. Now we can see there are no records, only column it is showing. Fine. Now let us add one record using our post mapping. Let's say here we can change this port, and this is the entry we can add. Yes, we can see the first record is added successfully. And likewise we can add one more record, like let's say Kevin, and it's maths, and we are going to add email for Kevin. We can see the second record is added. Let's say we can add third record with name Sam. Here we can add chemistry as a subject, and here sam@gmail.com. Yes. Now if you go back to get data get API, and if we hit, we can see all the three records it is showing. Now if you want to cross check in database, we can simply run this query, and we can see all these three records which we have inserted right now is showing as expected. Now we have seen our get method and post method. So we have one more method, like we can pass the ID, student ID, and accordingly it will return a particular object. Like let's say this is the object, not the full array, rather it will show only a single object. Yes, it is showing as expected. Now let us check for patch method. So we can copy this object, and for patch method can change this ID. For patch method we need to pass the student ID as well as the object which we need to modify. Let's say this is the earlier object. Now we can modify it. Let's say we can say it's a Tom, and instead of chemistry politics we can say, and here we can add tom@gmail.com. Now let us see how it goes. Yes, it is updated successfully. If we check by calling the get method, get all students, so it is showing all the records, and third record we have just modified is showing as expected. If we check here, third record, it should show Tom. Yes, fine. This is about patch method, and finally we will see about delete method. For delete method we can use delete HTTP method, and here we can pass the ID, and this is about delete method. Fine. So we can see the record is deleted successfully from the table, from the database, as well as if you want to cross check, you can see in the database third record, which is of Tom, is deleted, and here we can see in gate mapping as well, so it should show only 2 records. Yes, fine. So while testing this on the Postman side, you need to make sure for calling the get APIs you should use get HTTP method. For adding you should use post HTTP method. For updating you should use patch, and for deleting it's a delete method. Fine. So with this, like, we have tested all the CRUD operations which we have created. With this, like, we are done with our backend side student service application. Now one more thing we need to add it here, like we need to add, let's say, cross origin, because we are going to get request from browser. So for this we need to add this, and we can mention some number here. Fine. Now with this we are done. Now let us build it and keep it running. Now we are going to focus on the UI part. Yes, it's a build is success. Now we can run it. So for creating the UI part, let me close this application first, and let me open it from here. Let me open the new VS Code instance. Here we can see our application, backend application is running fine, and we will keep it running. Now here we can create our new application using command npm create @latest, and here we can add our project name, like what project we want to be created. It's a student web. Here we can select React and JavaScript. We can go to the project folder, let's say it's a web, and we can call npm install. It will install all the required dependency. Yes, we can say it's done. Now let us run our application using command npm run dev. We can see our project folder is created with all the default files and folders. Here is app.jsx. Now we can run our browser URL. Here we can see our front-end application is running fine as expected. Now let us do one thing, like let us add all the dependency which are required using command npm install, and its first dependency is reactable, and next like axios, in order to call the REST API from the client application. Let us install it. we can say this, we can check the dependency inside our package.json. We can say axios and react table is installed as expected. Now let us do one thing, like let us clear everything from app.jsx and css so that we can make a fresh start. Now let me clear from here. We can remove this variable as well as unused imports, and we can save it. We can clear everything from app.css, and at the HTML side we can remove this image and we can name it like it's an React.js plus Spring Boot, and here we can add h2. Fine, we can save it. With this, like we can see, we need to run it to check. You can see everything is cleared. Now let us make a fresh start. So first of all, we can create one main container div with class name as in, let's say, container. Inside this we require one more div for search panel, and here we can give it name like search box. Before we show the search box, we are going to show some header part, like this is the header. H3, and we can say it's an full stack application using React.js, Spring Boot and H2. This is about the header, and this is about search box. Inside search box, okay, search box. Now next thing, like we can, after search box we can add table it here, and we can give class name for table as in table. Fine, we can save it. You can see the header part. Now let us add some minimum CSS for all this. You can say its width, we can add 567 pixel, height as in fit content, you can save it. Border 1 pixel solid, and here we can add margin left as in 30 pixel. Fine. Now here we can add for search box as well. Here for search box we can mention width as an, to see we can copy, and we can mention height as an 40 pixel. Fine. Next thing, we can add for table, and here you can say margin top, we can add 5 pixel. Next thing, like we can mention width, you can say border 1 pixel solid, you can add border Fine, we can save it. Seems good now. We can remove this border from main content. So for now we can add somewhere like 300 pixel. Fine, it seems good. You can say top margin 15 pixel. Let's check. Fine. Now this is about the header and search box and table. Now let us add inside search box what all things we need. One is input search we need. We can say search input. Here we can add kind of placeholder search students here, and we can give class name like inputs search. Fine, you can save it. Next thing, like we can add one button. Let's say it's a button, and here we are going to add button, and here we can give class name like add btn. You can save it. Now let us add some css part for this input search as well as here we can add border, let's say 1 pixel solid. Next thing, like border radius as 5 pixel, and here we can mention some width, let's say it's 200 pixel. And next thing, like we can mention height, let's say it's 25 pixel. Save it. And we can add margin left as in 5 pixel. Fine. So let us add for add button. You can say float right save it. Here we can mention font size as an 13 pixel, line height as an 15 pixel. I can save it. And width we can mention as an 65 67 pixel. Now margin top 5 pixel, margin right we can add in 5 pixel. Fine, seems good. Same margin top we can add it here as well. Fine. So here we can add the color as well. First we are going to add color for h3, let's say text align, we can say center. Next we can add color part here, color we can add like this one. Let's save it. Fine. Next for search box we can add background color. Fine. And for input search we can add background color. Fine. For add button we can add background color, let's say green, and here we can save it. Fine. Fine, it seems good now. Now next thing, like what we can do, we are going to add the table part. So let us add the table at here. Fine. Now for table we have two main things, like first is the t head and other is a t body. So for t head, for rows we are going to use tr, and same we are going to use for t body. For rows we are going to use tr. Now here inside tr, to render the headers we are going to use th, and to render the data we are going to use td inside t body. We can save it. Now this is the common structure we used to follow for generating the table. Now we are going to use the React table library, so we will first import it, let's say from React table. We can import star as React from React. Fine. So from React table we can use hooks like use table, which we are going to use it here. Now here in order to generate the table we require columns and data part. So first of all we can create constant for columns, and here we can use react.use memo, and inside this we can add our column part. So for showing the column we need to follow this structure. Like first we need to add the header part, student id, and next accessor, and here we can pass student id. So this is for the first column. To display the column, this is the header which will be shown on the UI, and this is the accessor through which we are going to access the column. So this is about the first column. Similar way we can add 3 more columns, and here we can say it's a name, accessor name, it's a major, an accessor major, and it's the email. Fine. Here we can initialize it with some dependency array and complete this. We can save it. So we have created our column constant. Similar way we need to create the data constant, and here for data we need to create one more constant, like we are now the data which we will get, like it's a student's data. So here we can create one constant as students, and we can set students, and here we can use state. Inside that we can use array. Fine. And here for data data is our students, and here is we can initialize with some dependency array. Fine. So this is the columns and this is the data which store the students. Now let us create our table constant. Let's say table, and here we can create table using hook use table, inside which we are going to add columns first and data next, and inside data we are going to show the students. Okay, fine. So this is the hook. Now this table has lot many properties and functions, which is an overhead if we use the table. Rather we can use the particular functions which we are going to use. Let's say the functions which we are going to use: get table properties, get table body properties, next header groups, next rows, and next prepare row, and we can save it. We can keep on adding the functions which we need. Here it should be students. Fine. Now let us see how we can add these functions into our table. Now you can watch it carefully because we are going to use this React table. Now we are going to add the function set here. So here we can add get table props, and inside t head we can say header groups dot map, and for each header group we are going to add this tr part, and for each tr we are again going to add some function, like let's say hd dot, here we can call this get header group props, and here we can define some key as h3.id. Now here again, like for each hd dot headers dot map, and here for each column we can say we are going to render this header. We can cut it and add it inside it here, and here again we are going to pass some function like column dot get header properties, and again like here we are going to pass some key as column dot id. Fine. And here we are going to actually render our header. So what we can call column dot render, and here we are going to pass the actual header which will get rendered. So this is the header which we have defined it here, that will get rendered on the UI side. So we can save it, and we can see it is getting rendered as expected, column headers. Fine. Now next thing, similar way we can add the data part. Here the function which we need to call like get table body props, and here we can say rows dot map, and for each row we are going to return tr. Fine. And for each tr we are again the functions which we are going to use like get row properties, and here we need to add some key as row.id. Fine. And inside this row dot we can call cells, and we can map on cells, and here for each cell we are going to render the data. So we can cut it and add inside this, and for each TD we are again going to use some on cell. We are going to use get cell properties right here, and here we are again going to pass some key as cell dot id. Fine. And here we are actually going to render our data part, cell part, by using this cell dot render, and here we are going to pass cell. You can save it right now. Fine. Now we can save it, and here before we return the row we need to call the prepare row and pass this row to it, and fine. Now it is not showing any data as such, because though the data is present inside the table, let's say here we can run. Now there is no data inside table. Fine. Now let us add few entries in table so that we can cross check, like our, so this is our first entry, and next is for John, maths, and here is our John, and this is the second entry. So here we can cross check it once. Yes, we can see these two records are there in table. Now it should show on the UI side as such. Now it is not showing because we have not called any API which will return all the students and render on the UI side. So let us call some API. So here what we can do it here, we can define one constant like get students here, and here it will return all the students, and we are going to use axios.get method, and here we are going to say URL like http localhost, and this is our port number which is 8085, and this is the endpoint which we are going to use as students. Here we can call them. Inside that we have response, and here we are going to call console.log, and here list.data, and same we are going to set students as list.data. Fine, we can complete this. Now this axios we need to import for, we can import from axios, can save it. Now here we have created our get students, but we need to call it. Now we can use effect method, inside which we are going to call this get. We can copy this, paste it inside, and here we can initialize with some dependency array. Complete this, save it. Now we can see it is showing the data. Fine. Okay, now it is showing the data. Now let us add some formatting CSS part for this table. So let us add the table. Fine, here we can see instead of this we can add fit content. Fine, and here we can say text align as in center, seems good. Now here we can add header part, and here we can add border radius, font size, line height. Now here we can remove this border radius part, we can save it, and here inside table we can add border collapse, again collapse, you can save it. Now here we can increase the font height and line height. Now it seems good. Similar way we can add for TD part. Let's say it here, and for TD part we can make it as an 13, and here we can make it as 17 pixel. So here 13 and 18 pixel, and or rather we can make it as an 20 pixel. Let's see. Now it seems good. Or we can make it 18 pixel, and here we can increase the width, 15 pixel. Okay, seems good. Now next thing, like we can add color for headers. Let's say background color, and here we can add seems good. Now here one more thing we can add it here. Now tr and child for a1 rows we can add some background color. Let's say here we can add okay, fine. Now let us create one pop-up. Whenever we click add button, it should open one pop-up. Okay, so for that what we can do, we can first add one constant with name as an constant, and here you can say is model open, and we can set is model open, and here use state, and initially we can make it false. Fine. So this variable we are going to use to open and close the pop-up. Now whenever we click on add button, it should open the pop-up, so we can add on click button, it's an open pop-up, and here we can add one constant as, let's say constant open pop-up, and here we are going to add set is model open as an true. With this it will open the pop-up. Now let us see where exactly we can add this pop-up. Now before this table starts, we can add this pop-up. So here we can say is model open, and if that is the case, we can add show the div, and here we can name this, we can give class name for this div as add edit pop-up, as we are going to use this pop-up for add edit purpose. Here we can add one span for close button. Let's say we can add times, and here is our class name for this as close btn. Next point, we can add one header as h4, and here we can mention it's a student detail. Fine, we can save it. Now we can add You can check it is getting added, but now let us add some minimum CSS for this one. First of all, we can add for pop-up width as an 300 pixel, height as an 300 pixel. Apart from this, we need to add border 5, and we can add for, let's say, close button, and here we can say float as an right, and here we can add font size 25 pixel and line height as in 23 pixel. You can save it. We can say margin right as in we can add 5 pixel, save it, fine. And for header h4 we are going to add text align as in center, we can save it, and margin top as in 5 pixel, we save it, and we can add the border part, border and border radius both we are going to add. Fine. Now here we can add margin left as an 15 pixel, margin right as an 23 pixel as such. Seems good. Now we can say 25 pixel. Okay. For close button we can add one color as an red. Fine. We can simply add some color for this as well, background color, like let's say the background color. Now let us add the header div, one more div inside this. This is the student detail. After this we can add one more div, and here we can give class name as an pop-up div. Inside this we are going to add first one label. You can name it like name. Here we can say name, and one input, here text, and we can say name, and class name we can add as pop-up input. Fine, we can save it. Here we can add one line break, and we can save it, and we can add some CSS for this one as well. Let's see it here. We can add pop-up div, and we can say margin left 15 pixel, and for pop-up input we can add can save it, and here we can add a height as a 25 pixel. Seems good. We can say width we can add up to 85 pixel. Let us check. No, it should be like 180 pixel. Seems good. Now we can add some background color. as seems good. So this is about the name. Now you can save it. Now let us add two more div, and here it is for measure. Can name it like measure, and it is for email. And we can save it. Fine. Now we can add one line break, and we can add one button, and we can say it's add student. Here we can add class name as an add student, and we can add CSS for add student as well, and we can we can copy the add button. Yes, here. And we can copy the color as well. And we can add margin left as an 15 pixel, and we can save it. Now we can add, okay, so here we can add it to 14 pixel. Let's check. Seems good. Now next thing what we can do, like this is about this one. Now this close button is not clickable, so what we can do, we can add on click functionality here. We can say handle close, and we can write some functionality to close this. Let's say constant handle close, and here we can make it false. Whenever we close this, it should close. Fine, it is getting closed. Now let us check for H4. Whether we can add some different color. Okay, fine. Let us. It seems good. Now we have add button and this all these things. Now let us do one thing. So till now we have added all these things. Now let us implement the post mapping API in order to add our student. So here, once we click on add student, it should add the data into the database. So we can say on click, here we can say handle submit, and we can write one function to submit it. We can say constant handle submit, and we can copy this. Here we can add async event, we can add, and here we can add await. Here we can say e dot event default. Fine. And on axios we are going to add the data into the database, so we can use post method, and here we need to pass one data. So we can create one variable, let's say constant student data, and here we can say set student data. You can say use state, and here we are going to add some data. Initial data as name blank, major as in blank, and email as in blank. Fine. Now we are going to pass this set data at here, so that it will get saved into the database. Okay, we don't need to set this set student now. Fine. Now one more thing, like now we have passed this student data, but it's an empty. So whenever we click on this one, whatever the data we type it here, that should be get populated into or set into this student data. So for that we need to add some, like here this is our name text box. Here we can set the value as student data dot name, and whenever we change anything, so we can call the on change event, and we can call the set data function it here, and we can add some set data function, like let's say constant set data, and here is our fine. Now here we can set student data. Here we are going to call, and this is our student data, and on top of this we can call e dot target dot name, and here we are going to set e dot target dot value. So these things, whatever we enter, those values will get set into the student data. We can save it. Fine. Now here we have added it for one text box. Similar way we need to add it for other text box as well. So here it is for major. Similar way we can add for email, and we can save it. Now we can check for this submit, how it works. We can save it, and let us try adding it. First of all we can refresh it. Here we can add, let's say Sachin, major subject is like physics, and we can add Sachin@gmail.com. Now this pop-up is not getting closed. We can see the Sachin is getting added after refreshing the data, and even the pop-up is not getting closed. What we can do, we can come at it here. Here we can call once successful addition of the data, we should close the pop-up, and inside handle pop-up we should call get students method, so that it will show the latest data with added student. Now let us add one more entry and check how it works. We can save it. Now here we can add, let's say here we can add Sam, major subject, let's say maths, and here Gmail ID for Sam. Now we can add student. Now we can see the pop-up is getting closed automatically, and even we don't need to refresh, and the record is added into the data kit. Fine. So addition is working fine. Now let us do one thing. Addition is working fine. Now we can add few more records. Let's say this is Sam. We can say Sam 1, 2, Sam 1, 1. Okay. Instead of Sam, we can check it as a Kiran maths, and here is Kiran. Next thing, we can add one more record like Robert. Here we can say it's a chemistry, and here we can add a Robert email. Fine. We have 6 records. We can add one more record, like let's say it's a Peter. No, here, not here. We can add it here. So Peter in chemistry, and here we can add Peter. So we have 7 records now. Fine. Now we can apply our sorting logic first it here for this table. So now let us do one thing it here. We can use, in order to use sorting, we can use, let's say, use sort by, and here this is the hook we are going to use it here. Fine. And in order to sort this, we need to add at column level. We are going to sort it, so we need to add it column level. This where exactly we are entering the column it here, and this is the properties for column. Now here we can add column dot get sort by toggle props. We can call this so that it will get sorted on basis of column. Now let us check if it is working. Yes, we can see it is getting sorted on column. Fine. Now let us do one more thing yet here, like we need to add some arrows for ascending and descending it here. Now what we can do it here, we can say for column dot is sorted. If that is the case, we are going to show some span, and for showing the span here, what we are going to do, if column dot is sorted DSC, then show ascending order, else show descending order. And to add the arrow, we can use the shortcut of Windows colon, and here we can use up arrow, and in order to add the down arrow, we can use Windows and colon shortcut, and we can pass the down arrow. We can save it. If you want to add any other icons, you can use that. You can import the icon and add it here, like. Fine. Now let us save it and check how it works. We can refresh it. Fine. We can see it is appearing. Fine. and for name and major, fine. It is the sorting is working fine for all the columns. Makes sense. Fine. So this is about sorting we are done with. Now let us add for searching part. Now what we can use, global filter, and the same global filter we need to add it this hook. Let's say it here, and we can add set to global filter. Let's say it here, set to global filter, and here we can define one constant as for global filter, and here we can state, we can define one variable as state. We can add it here, we can save it. Now this is the global filter. Now whenever we add some text at here, so the data will get filtered out. So in order to add the change this, so add the searching functionality or filtering functionality, we can add the change event, and here we can pass the event and we can call set to global filter, and here we can pass e.target.value. Apart from this, we need to set the value as, let's say, global filter, and if not, we can set it as an empty value. Now let us check. We can save it first and check our searching functionality if it works fine. Yes. For name Sam, fine. For Sam, yes. Now for chemistry, it is showing chemistry, seems good, and for Robert mail, fine. So this search is applicable to all the columns as you can see it here. Now the next thing, like we can see the pagination part. Here we can implement use pagination. Same, we need to add it here. Like after this, use pagination. Now here, instead of using the rows, we need to use page, because we are going to use pagination part. And here we can use the page it here, where we are iterating on rows. We can save it, and we need to show some buttons it here, where we can create one div for pagination itself, and here we can give class name, let's say pagination div, and inside this we can add different buttons. So first is for first button, so we need to add, and here we can add class name as a pagination button. So we need to create 3 more buttons. First is for first, next is for previous, next is for next, and last is for last. Fine. Apart from this, we can use create one span in between, which will show the page index of page count. Fine. And we need to add this it here in our hook. Here is our, we can add it here. Let's say it's a page count, and for page index we can add it here, like page index, and we can save it. Fine, seems good. Now we can add some some CSS part for this one as well. Now here we can say it's a, we can add margin top as an 5 pixel at least, so that it will separate from the table. And for buttons we can add something. Let's say here we can add some margin left 5 pixel, button 10 pixel, line height 12 pixel. Fine. Color we can change. Now seems good. Now here this is the index of first page. It should show page index +1, not 0. And here Postman we can add fine, we can add some span. Here we can say class name index. Here we can add some CSS as well, and dot index, and here we can say margin left as in 5 pixel. We can save it. Okay, fine, seems good. Now we can see the pagination is there. Now whenever we click on next button, it should show the next page, or whenever we click on previous button, it should show the previous page. So first of all, by default the page size is 10. Now we can reduce the page size by using one here. In order to reduce that, we can use initial state, and for initial state we can mention page size as 3 records per page, and we can save it. Now next thing we can add here like next page and previous page at here, so that we can make, here you can see the initial page size 3 is applied at here, and it is showing 3 records per page. Now here we can copy this next page and previous page at here. Let's say we are going to, whenever we click on previous, let's say here on click, we can say go to next page, and whenever we click on here next page, and for previous it should be previous page. Fine, we can save it. Now let us check whether it is working fine. Yes, we can see next is working, previous is working as well. Now next thing, like what we can do, we need to disable whenever we are on the last page. So for last page we can add the functionality. Let's say here on click, here we can say go to page, and here you can say page count -1 is the last, and for first we can add go to page index 0, it's a first index. Fine. Now we need to add this go to page it here in our hooks, which is it here. We can save it. Fine. Now whenever we click on last page, it is showing the last page. Whenever we click on first page, it is showing the first page. Now whenever we are on last page, so it should, the next button and last button should get disabled because we do not have any more page to show. And same scenario, similar kind of scenario should be for first and previous whenever we are on the first page. What we can do here, we can add can next page and can previous page, and same things we can use it here in order to disable the buttons it here. Let's say here what we can do, disabled, can set here. We can add for last page, we can say can next page. If there is no next page, it should get disabled, and if there is no previous page, it should be disabled. Now same case, if there is no previous page for previous button, it should disable and for next and last button there is a similar kind of behavior. Now we are on the first page, we can see first and previous is disabled. So whenever we click on next button, now we have one more page to show, hence it is not getting disabled. Now whenever we reach on last button, the next button and last button is getting disabled. Similar way, whenever we click on first page, so first and previous button will get disabled. Whenever we click on last button, the next and last will get disabled, which is working as expected. Now here our pagination is working as expected. Now let us do one thing, like here we need to add the action buttons like edit and delete. So here we can add action buttons, and here again we need to add first header, and for header we can say it's edit. We need to add ID as well, and for ID we can add again edit, and here we can add accessor, and for accessor again we can say it's edit, and we need to pass, let's say here cell, or cell we can say it's props, and props we can add, inside this we can add button, and here we can say it's edit button, and we can give some class name as an edit btn. We can save it. Now we can check it here. Yes, it is showing. Now similar way we can add one more button it here for delete. Now we can say it's a delete. Same, we can copy it, we can edit it here and here, and here we can say it's a delete button. Accessor we can keep it small. Fine. Now we can add some CSS part for this one so that it will look good. Now we can add edit button, and we can add some CSS of add btn, along with the background color we can add. Now here margin top we can delete, margin right is not needed. Fine, we can save it. Seems good. Now similar way we can add for delete button. It seems good. Now we can add this one as an 10 pixel, and line height we can make it 13 pixel, and let us see how it looks. Line height again if we make 10 pixel, now 12 pixel we can make line height, and same we can make it for it here. Yes, it seems good. width we can make it 62 pixel. Now it seems good. Fine. Now we have added this edit and delete buttons, and we can see it is showing on all the pages. Now we can add some functionality. Whenever we click on edit button, it should on edit we can add on click functionality, and here we can say handle update, and here we are going to call this handle update, and inside this we can call props dot cell. We can access cell, on cell we can access row, and we can say original on this one, so that we can pass the object which we have selected through this one. Now we need to write some handle update function. Now here we can add the constant handle update, and here we have some student, and here we can say on handle update first we need to do like we need to set student data here, and we can say we can pass this input student, and next we need to open the pop-up with this. We can save it. Now let's check what happens. Let's say here we can see it is getting populated and the pop-up is getting opened. This is for Sachin as well and for Robert as well. Fine. So this looks fine. Now what we need to do, like here it is showing the add button whenever we are going to update the student, so that should not be case. Whenever we click on add button, it should show the add student. So we can check where is our add student button. So here is our add student button. What we can do here, we can check like our student data dot student id. If there is a student id, then we can say update student, or else we can say we need to copy this, cut this and add it here. Simply like if it has id, then it will show the update button, update student, or else it will show the add student. We can save it. Now let us check. Now it is showing update student, and whenever we click on add, still it is showing update button because the data is not getting cleared. Okay, fine. So what we can do, so whenever here is our handle pose, and here we set student data, and here we need to clear the student data which is getting set. So we need to clear student data on close. We can pass it at here and we can save it. Now let us check what happens. Like we can refresh it. This is showing update student, and here whenever click it is showing add student and data is getting cleared. Fine, it is showing as expected. Now let us do one more thing, like so whenever let us show the update functionality now. So whenever we click on add whenever we click on add button, here we need to handle the submit functionality, right? So here we have this handle update, which is okay, fine. Now here we need to add the handle functionality, uh, uh, update functionality. We are going to check like if we have student data dot student id. If we have student id, then go for updation. Else if go for addition, and this is the data we are going to add for addition, and here is for updation because it has id, and we are going to use patch method for id, and for update method we need to pass the student data, as well as we need to pass student data dot student id, fine. And here is our actual updated object we are going to pass, which will get saved into the database, fine. Now let us check with our edit functionality. Let's say we are going to edit the Sam. Instead of Sam, we are going to make it like Manoj, and instead of chemistry we can make it maths, and it's a Manoj. Now we can update student. Now this pop-up is not getting closed. Let us check. It is not getting updated, fine. Let us check why it is not getting updated. This is patch method, and okay, so here slash is missing. Now let us check it once again. Here we are going to update the here Manoj, and id we are going to update, and here we are going to update. We can see it is getting updated as expected, which is fine. Now with this, like, our updation is working. Now one more thing we can see, like whenever we click on edit button, or let's say add button, so if we have not added anything, and once we click on add student, it should show some error message. So this part we can add. So for showing the error message, we can use one variable. Let's say here it's a error message, and we can set error message, and here we can use state, and initially it's a blank. Now here what we can do, on our handle submit, here we can check if there is student data dot, if there is no name, or there is no major, or this not negation means it's a no, if there is a no email. So either of the three fields like name or major or email is not there, in that case we are going to set the error message, and here we can say error message like all fields are required, and here now here we can set the error message, and here we can pass this error message. That's it. Now here we can check in case there is no error, that means the zero length of error message. then go for updation, as well as else if there is no error, then go for updation. For both the cases, like addition or updation, there should not be any error, then only it will allow. Fine. Now we need to display the error somewhere. Now let us see where exactly you can show. After this header part, we can show the error if in case if it is there, error message, and here we can say we can create one span, and here we can display this error message, and we can give class name as error. We can add some CSS for this one for showing the error message. Let's say it's error, and we can say margin left as in 15 pixels somewhere, and we can give color as a red because it's an red button. It's an error. Now let us check. We can save it app.jsx again, and here we can see if we try to submit. Oh, basically it should not allow to submit, right? Okay, so here we are closing this. Now here again we should need to add this condition, like if error message, if there is no error message, then handle close this one. In case there is error message, stay there and show the error message. Fine. Now let us check what happens. You can refresh it. We can see it is showing all fields are required. Fine. Next thing what we can do for edit also, here now it is not getting cleared. So whenever we close the window or pop-up, that time it should clear the error message. Okay, here we can say set error message, we can set it as a blank so that it will not show as such. Fine. Now let us recreate the scenario. Like first of all, we can show the error message whenever it is blank, and we can go to the edit. Now it is not showing that pre-populated error message. Now whenever we clear something and we are not passing any input, in that case it will show the error message. Now this error message, whenever we click on add button, it is not showing anything, which is as expected. Now so far we have done with error message handling as well. Now last point, we can go for the delete method. Now for delete method, we can do the same thing as it here. We need to call the delete method the similar way. On click, we can copy this and add it for here, and here we can say it's an handle delete, and we need to prepare one function for deleting the same. Let's say here is our, you can say constant handle delete, and we can say here, and we can copy this code and add into delete part. Here we can add a sync, and here await, and here instead of patch we can say delete, and here we are not going to pass the actual data, rather student ID is enough to delete the record. Fine. Now here, after deleting the record, we need to set students as an res.data. Fine. Now here we need to show the confirmation box as well. Let's say it's confirmed, and here we can say window.confirm we can call, and here we can show the message, are you sure you want to delete? Okay, fine. If it is yes, if it click on OK on confirmation, then we are going to allow to delete. Okay, fine. Now we can cut this and add it here. You can save it. Now let us check whether it is going to delete as expected or not. Let us see this third record as Sachin we want to delete now. So we can check on the browser instead it here and call it, and here is Sachin we want to delete. Now here the color for it is green. It should be like red. So let us go and change the color. Now seems good. Fine. Now here, fine. Now we can delete the third record. Let's say okay. Now we can refresh it. Now it is not getting deleted. Let us check what happened. I hit here axios.delete, and here is the student data, and here we can pass some std student std, and here we can call student id on this std and save it. Now we can cross check it again. Here we can delete Sachin. If we refresh, you can see Sachin is getting deleted. Now the data is getting deleted, but after we refresh it is showing us. Now what we can do it here, we can call like window dot location dot reload function we can call, so that it will show the data at there only. Now here if we want to delete the SAM, you can see yes, now it is deleting and without refreshing the page. So with this, like, we are done with all the functionalities. So let us check into the data whether it is showing the same way or not. Yes, here we can add day with the 1 2 3. So we have Manoj, John, Kiran, Robert and Peter, and the same records, like let's say here Manoj, John, Kiran, Robert and Peter, it is showing as expected. Now let us check by adding one more record so that we can cross verify into the database part. Let's say we can add Chetan, subject as a history, and we can add Chetan at the rate gmail.com. We can see last record Chetan is added successfully. Now we can search using search filter. Chetan is there, coming as expected. We can cross verify into the database. Yes, we can see it is added. We can edit one record and check. Let's say last record we can edit. Instead of Chetan, we can say it's Ravi, and similar way we can change it to Ravi and update it and cross verify into the table. Now it is showing Ravi. So update is working fine. Now let us delete one record. This Ravi we can delete. Now cross verify into the database. Yes, Ravi is deleted successfully, and we can see this sorting logic is also working fine on the columns and the pagination part as well. So with this, like, we have covered all the functionalities which we have discussed at the start of the video, and what all functionalities we have promised, we have implemented all those as expected. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will request you to please like and subscribe the same, and so that I will be coming up with more knowledgeable videos like this in next. So thank you so much for watching this video, and please request and subscribe the same. Thank you so much.